Match your blocks 3,000. You have selected very small block. Get ready. Round 1, go! You lose. Continue? You probably should have. Wait, come back. Round 2, go! You lose. Continue? You really shouldn't. Maybe you should just go home.
Well, good morning or good afternoon, whether you're joining us in St. Peter's or Heswell Primary or Gayton Primary. It is so good that you've come to join us again for this collective worship or assembly. In St. Peter's, every collective worship, we always light a collective worship candle just to remind us that Jesus is the light of the world, and it's his light and his presence with us as we do this. So just like this. Fantastic. Last week we had a look at Abraham and we looked at trust. And I know some of you sent some of your pictures in of some of the questions that you were answering. So thank you so much for sending those. I think they're going to pop on the screen right now so you can see some of your answers coming back. And can you please keep sending your responses in and your answers in and what you get up to after these collective worships, because we love to see what you are doing and what you're getting out of these times together. Well, today we're going to carry on our story looking at giants of faith. And today we're going to be looking at a lady called Ruth, again from the Old Testament. And we're going to find out a little bit about her in a moment. But before we do, I wonder if any of you ever remember some of the Rolos adverts. I wonder if any of you like Rolos right now. I still like Rolos when I buy them. But there was a really, really famous advert that used to be on when I was a bit younger. Have a look at one of them right now.
Do you love anyone enough to give them your last Rolo? Soft golden toffee in a milk chocolate cup.
That's one of the Rolo adverts that I grew up with when I was younger. And the big catchphrase was, do you love anyone enough to give them your last Rolo? Or do you love anybody enough to sacrifice your last Rolo for them? And we see in that video that wife didn't want to sacrifice her last Rolo for her husband. And I don't know how that ended up, but we've seen him rub out his heart on the window of the train. But that's what we're going to be looking at today when we look at this story of Ruth. Because we're going to be looking at how she sacrificed everything that she had for somebody else. So we're going to start this morning with our song, Giants of Faith.
We all come in different shapes and sizes. Life is full of many surprises, but one thing stays the same: Jesus is on my side. I don't need to be afraid, I don't need to run and hide. When I open my Bible, it's clear as can be. The God that I read about's with me, and I'm gonna be a giant of faith. Like Moses and Joseph, Daniel, Esther, Rahab and Ruth, no denying the truth. The giants of faith, and like David, Elijah, Noah and the rest of the team, I'm gonna be a giant of faith. I'm gonna be a giant of faith. Every day we always stick together, hand in hand, through every adventure. When I'm playing with my friends, or when I go to sleep, I know you are always there. Angels are watching me. When I open my Bible, it's clear as can be. The God that I read about's with me, and I'm gonna be a giant of faith. Like Moses and Joseph, Daniel, Esther, Rahab and Ruth, no denying the truth. The giants of faith, and like David, Elijah, Noah and the rest of the team, I'm gonna be a giant of faith. I'm gonna be a giant of faith. By faith I can do anything. By faith I can do anything. By faith I can do anything. Like Moses and Joseph, Daniel, Esther, Rahab and Ruth, no denying the truth. The giants of faith, and like David, Elijah, Noah and the rest of the team, I'm gonna be a giant of faith. I'm gonna be a giant of faith.
What a great song, Giants of Faith. And this morning we're going to carry on looking at our Giants of Faith in the Bible as we look at Ruth. Now, Ruth had to sacrifice a lot of things to go and follow Naomi, her friend. And it would have been quite scary to do something new. So Levi is going to come and show us a little challenge of what that might have looked like. Okay, Levi, are you going to do a challenge for me?
Yeah.
For this challenge, you have to be extra super brave
Yeah.
and courageous. Can you be that?
Yeah.
Right, what we're going to do, I'm going to put this mask on you,
Yeah.
and then I'm going to lift up a bowl of something, okay?
Okay.
And you've got to put your hand in that bowl, feel around and find a coin. Okay, there's money in each bowl, okay?
Yeah.
But in the bowl,
Yeah.
there's either wiggly worms,
Yeah.
squishy beetles,
Yeah.
or squashy slime. Okay?
Yeah.
Are you going to put your hands in?
Yeah.
Yeah, right, let's put your mask on. Right, don't take your mask off. Come to me. Come to me. Stand there. Can you see anything?
No.
Can you see anything?
No.
No? Right, your first bowl is coming. Don't look. Right, your first bowl is in front of you. So this one is the wiggly worms. Okay, give me a hand. You got to put your hand in and feel around and find the money. Oh, they wiggly worms. Oh, why they like those worms? Are they nice?
They're fast so you can feel the money.
You couldn't feel it? Get the money then. Get it out.
I can't feel
You're
it.
very brave. Should we have another feel? See if it's in there. Oh, I heard it. Well done. Open up. So how were the wiggly worms? How did they feel?
Really good.
Did they feel okay?
Yeah.
Did they? Well done. That was super brave. Right, I'm going to put this on again. Now we've got the squishy slime. Are you ready for the squishy slime?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in front of you. Don't look. Don't look. Give me a hand. I feel around in the squishy slime. Feel around right in there. Find the money. Have you found it?
Yeah.
You got it? Pull it out then. Oh, well done. There it is. Right there. Don't look. Don't look. Don't look. Well done. That's two out of 3. Should you wipe your hands a minute from the squishy slime? Pass me that. Ready for the last? You're super brave. You're like the bravest man
It
ever.
was on slime first.
It was super squishy slime. Ready for this one? Put that on your face. Can you see it?
No.
Right, this one is
Yeah.
squashy beetles. You ready? Get your hand into the squashy beetles. Oh, can you feel those beetles?
Yeah.
What do they feel like?
Found it.
You found it! Oh my goodness! Flick it off then. Oh, you lost it.
Found it again.
Found it again. Let's flick it off. Put it on here. Well done. Let's wipe your hands. Look at those squishy beetle juice. Is that horrible?
No.
No. Right, well, Levi, how did that feel?
It felt like beans.
It felt like beans. Did you have to be brave to put your hand in though?
Yeah.
Did you? I thought you were really brave. Well done. So you got yourself 3 coins as a surprise. Fantastic. Well done, Levi. That was so good. And can I say, Levi genuinely didn't know what was in those bowls, and he genuinely was blindfolded. He couldn't see a thing. He was just super brave. I wasn't expecting him to be that brave, but he was. But that was just a challenge, just to help us start to think about our story today and about Ruth, who had to sacrifice all that she had to go and follow Naomi and go to a different country, a different land, leaving everything behind. And I'm sure that would have been quite scary, and that would have taken some boldness and courage to do something that she hadn't done before. Here's Martin to introduce our story for today.
Thanks for that, Andy, and your household. Very brave of you to do that and to think about us travelling somewhere far away and how sometimes we do have to do things which are challenging for us. So we're going to hand over to our Bible story now, and we're going to hear about Ruth.
Hi everyone, I'm Gemma. Got a question for you. Have you ever been on a really long journey far away from home? I have. I got to go all the way to South America, to Costa Rica, to film a TV show. It was brilliant. Got to go to the rainforest and everything, but thankfully I came back home again. One of my favourite stories in the Bible is about a girl called Ruth. Now, she travelled miles and miles away from her home to a brand new place and stayed there forever. I think that's pretty brave. She went because her mother-in-law Naomi was on her own and needed some help. She needed someone to look after her, so Ruth was loyal to her family and worked really hard by collecting loads of food for both of them to eat. So it wasn't long before they made some new friends, and then Ruth met a guy called Boaz and they got married and had a baby, so they weren't on their own anymore. There were times when Ruth had to be brave. make sacrifices, and look after other people ahead of herself. So Ruth was a giant of faith, but she's not the only one. I know loads of people who have been on amazing journeys and sacrificed things to help others. Should we go meet some? Come on.
For 3 years, I lived in Afghanistan.
So what did you do when you were there?
I worked with an organisation, and together we were building schools and little hospitals in the remote parts of the country.
Things must have been really different out there. Were you a bit scared?
It was very different, like people spoke a different language and I had to learn a new language. Probably the most difficult thing was the weather. Sometimes the snow would come or winter would arrive when we weren't expecting it and we wouldn't be able to work. And in fact, it was so cold that we would have to huddle up at home around the fire, and even just to get out of bed in the morning was difficult because it was so cold.
You had to work through some really tricky situations, so what helped you to be really brave?
I think what helped me to be brave was I knew that God was protecting me. I feel that God had told us not to be fearful and to be brave, and so we knew that we were doing something that was good and that we had nothing to fear.
The place where I spent the most time was a place a long way away called Southern Sudan.
Why did you choose to go there?
It's a very, very poor country. It's one of the poorest in the world. Because there's no access to running water, there's very poor housing, it just means that there's a lot of sick people out there without many doctors. Being a doctor and being in that privileged position to have a skill that is useful, I was just really struck by how much need there was.
So there would have been lots of difficult challenges for you. Were you quite scared?
There were definite moments of feeling scared, you know, when you're in your tent at night, in the middle of nowhere, then there were definitely times where I felt frightened, and then particularly if I started thinking about the snakes and the scorpions and the spiders, which I hate.
What helped you to be really brave?
At the loneliest moments, I think that's when you can feel God the most. And I think being in your tent in the middle of nowhere, not having anybody else to chat to and debrief to, and so you just sit there and you just think, wow, how incredible that I actually can talk to God. You know, when you really have to rely in some of the scary situations on God, I think that's when you see him come through and you see how great he is.
Wow, aren't those remarkable stories? Both the story of Ruth and then the story of that man who went to Afghanistan, that woman who went to South Sudan. I wonder if for a moment you might just think, how would you have felt in any of their situations? Think of Ruth for a moment. Just try and, can you put yourself in her shoes and think, how would you have felt leaving all the things that were familiar to you, that you were comfortable with, and making the sacrifice to stay with Naomi and look after her welfare? I don't think they used it in the video, but there's a verse in the book of Ruth, which we find in the Old Testament, that kind of sums up what Ruth said to Naomi. She said this: "Don't ask me to leave you and turn back. Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you live, I will live. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God." That was the sacrifice that Ruth was prepared to make in order to serve Naomi. So maybe for a moment you might just think, there's two questions are going to appear on the screen for you. How do you think Ruth felt leaving everything she knew behind? So first question, think about Ruth. Second question, think about yourself. How would you feel if you had to leave your home and everyone you knew? So if you could just pause the video, think those questions, talk about them together, and then come back to us later on.
And I hope you found those questions useful, and I hope you had lots of good answers that came out of those. Ruth and Naomi went on a long journey to get to Bethlehem, and I'm sure they did an awful lot of walking to get there. So for our prayer, to reflect from what we just thought about in our questions, we'd like you all to stand up, and I'd like you all to march. we all march. And when we march in this prayer, I'm going to say it first, each line, and then you can respond with Levi. So you say it at the same time as Levi. Is that okay? So I'll say it first, and you repeat with Levi. So we kind of say it like we're marching. You ready? Ready, Levi?
Yeah. Ready.
Good. Ready? Help me to help others.
Help me to help others.
Even when it's scary.
Even when it's scary.
Let me be a good friend.
Let me be a good friend.
Like Ruth was to Naomi.
Like a Ruth to Naomi.
Give me courage.
Give me courage.
And make me brave.
And make me brave.
For you are with me.
And for you are with me.
Every day.
Every day.
Amen. Well, Martin's going to come and just give us a few questions to think about just before we finish.
Great, thank you for those prayers. So as we draw to a close, here's just something you might just think about with someone else or in your class, if you want to do it as a whole class, just to think what you're going to take away from our time together today. So questions on the screen, this is it. Is there someone you can help, even if it means doing something scary or giving something up? Is there someone you can help, even if it means doing something scary or giving something up? So if you'd like, just pause the video again, talk about that amongst yourselves, and then we'll see you for our very last song in a moment. Great, look forward to hearing some of the things you might have come up with there. Please do send them in to us. We would love to hear what they are. But let's just remember the story of Ruth, the sacrifices she made in order to serve her friend Naomi, and what we might learn from it and do in our own lives. So we're going to finish now. We're going to sing our final song, asking God to fill us up and send us on. And we'll see you next week. But we're going to carry on the story of Ruth then. So fill us up and send us on.
Fill us with love so we can love others. Fill us with joy to light up the world. Fill us with courage so we will be strong. Fill us up and send us on. Fill us up and send us on. Help us to use the gifts that you give us. Help us to give our best every day. Help us show kindness